Welcome to Skechcraft, the podcast for art, design, and process junkies. I'm Rob Duenas, art director for Game Fan Magazine and Artist Esquire. This is an unedited podcast, which means there is some cursing from time to time, so please be aware. Thanks for listening, and here we go. Hey! Alright, another sip of caffeinated goodness. Rob D back here. Sketch Rants, episode 3. Actually, it's kind of 2, part A, whatever. I want to call it 3. So, art thieving. You know what Sketch Rants is? I've said it before. This is my soapbox, or sort of get on and talk about a topic that would be a little too much for the normal episodes, since those are like an hour or too long, and I don't have that much cover art to put out here. So these are these quick little 20-minute bits and bytes for me to sort of pick a subject and whittle away. So I'm going to continue on the art thief thing, and I talked about the darkest of dark before in episode 2. That was stealing outright. And if you haven't listened to that, go back, download it, listen to it. Let's move on to the second topic: influences. Now this gets into the gray area. Okay. And I'm not calling you an art thief if you have an influence. That's just the general topic of this because it's controversial. Okay. Influences. So one of the things that constantly comes up to me is, Rob, you look like this artist and you look like that artist. I'll get Jeff Matsuda. I'll get Tom McFarlane. I'll get J. Scott Campbell. I'll get Joe Madureira. If I'm pronouncing his names correctly or incorrectly, whatever. I'll get Stephen Platt. I'll get Greg Capullo. I'll get Jim Lee. I'll get... who else? I mean, this goes on and on and on. And those are all vastly different artists, by the way. So what that means is I have influences. Okay? And for the longest time, I tried to fight that. I'm going to draw totally 100% my own way. I spent a long time trying to find my own style. And where that led me was down the path of drawing really shitty, or shittily, for the lack of proper grammatical education. So I was drawing very poorly. Okay, and so what I had to do was stop and learn how to actually draw with construction and form, and I sort of took on style as projects would present themselves. Started with college, and we would work in a certain style. Since I did a lot of 2D animation, there would be a house style in the group. If I was working a Disney style or an anime style or like a Bruce Timm style, whatever that came out to, I would flip the style over the construction. You animate the construction style and go over the construction. And so my style would vary depending on the subject material and the project, which actually successfully transitioned me into t-shirt work, where in graphic design I needed to change my mood constantly. Sometimes it's happy bubbly, sometimes it's evil and dark, and they can't look the same. So that's one thing. That's influences. Originality versus your own style. A lot of people will go out of their way, like I said before, to come up with something off the top of their head, and like what that generally leads to is just poor art. The other thing is to legitimately just say, I'm going to draw like that guy. And you can do that. That happens. Some people just say, that's me. When I was a kid, I wanted to be the next Eric Larson. I thought Eric Larson's Savage Dragon was the best superhero, Kirby, over-the-top, badass, fucking action, had some, racy stuff in there. I want to be the next. I want to bring Eric Larson art to DC Comics, where he, if Eric Larson only drew, Superman, that would be the best ever. And, I'd go to conventions and I'd watch people's portfolios. I tried to say this before. I grew up going to conventions at San Diego Comic-Con. Rather than stand in the line with the portfolio work, I would stand at the front of the line and watch people's portfolio reviews over and over and over. And I certainly realized that what was happening was people weren't drawing. More often than not, you weren't drawing like Eric Larson. You weren't drawing like, Jim Lee. They were redrawing Eric Larson and Jim Lee panels to sort of fit storytelling. And I'd see every editor and artist known to man call people out on that. The other thing would be, you could draw in a certain style. Like, you could draw just like Eric Larson. Where are you going to take that art? If you're going to Top Cow, drawing like Eric Larson, that doesn't really fit the house style. Which gets into a whole other thing. I'm going to talk about house style in the next podcast. So then I had a teacher in college bring up to me, Jerry Bryce. He's a fantastic artist, and he's a great trove of, art history and knowledge and stuff, and I've always appreciated his advice and support. And, he said something to me where, I try to never to think, and if I'm ruining this, Jerry, don't hate on me, but what I got from it was, you try not to look at anything, because you don't want to be, accused, or you don't want to just be blatantly stealing from somebody. You want to have your own thing entirely. And, that got me into trouble, because I would do that, and then, working in commercial art, again, I would run into things where it's like, well, we want something like this, but we don't want you to steal it. We want you to do what you do, but like this. And what was I supposed to do? Turn down that work? I guess some people are so good, sometimes, maybe like an Alex Ross or something. I don't know. Maybe some people are so good that they can just draw whatever they draw, and people just eat that up. I've not been in that position in my career. I've mostly been in this situation of saying, okay, if I'm going to work on Richie Rich, Jack Lawrence, an artist, great artist, designed the characters, and they had a style for the covers that they were fitting, and they wanted me to fit that theme. And with each cover, I've been able to push it a little bit more me and a little bit more me. If you look at Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, his first stuff was his stuff, but he was keeping pretty true to the Marvel style. He was putting a little bit of what he did, and then every issue he'd push a little bit more him and a little bit more him. And there's a podcast I used to do called Todd Talks. You can go find that. Todd McFarlane. It's a fantastic set of Impact 3s he put out. And he talks about that. He's like, making big changes all at once is not always the best way. Making a series of small changes incrementally over time is how people tend to accept things in art. And I say in life, too. You look at America, if you incrementally change it small, over a long period of time, you can change anything. So it's a whole other topic. But with my art, I've sort of found that's that. And then, too, I can't help my influences. I can't undraw all my influences, Like, I just can't. Like, I don't... Like, I've tried that. I may as well just give up drawing altogether. That gets me to a subject called all art is theft. What do I mean by all art is theft? There's a topic that came up recently on the internet, and there will be links, all art is theft link on the show cast, where this independent artist put out, he's a DJ or something like that, he put out an album, and he had taken a, what's the big jazz musician? Guy Davis. Guy Davis took a Guy Davis cover and sort of pixelated that and used that as his cover art. And the guy who took the photograph is a big art mogul, lawyer, or whatever in New York. And rather than give him a cease and desist, he sued him for like $50,000. An independent artist sued him for $50,000, and the guy had to remove all the stuff and pay the fine. And okay, you took that recourse. However, to sue an independent artist, again, that gets back into stealing art. I don't agree with it. I don't exactly know if stealing is the best way. You give a cease and desist, and you try to find the maliciousness of the situation. There was obviously like a tribute to Guy Davis, so you shouldn't have used that. A case in point is if you look at the Obama posters that came out a couple years ago, Shepard Fairey, the big graphic design artist, that big Obama Hope poster, used that photograph. He used a photograph. That wasn't his. It was a photographer's photograph, traced over, vectorized it, and made a big poster over it, and ran it on the actual campaign. Won a big award for that. And the photograph was trademarked. So what do you do about all that stuff? My advice is to just never do it. Don't trace over someone's photograph. Okay? Just don't do it. You work in a style. I say the best thing is if you have to work in a style, if I'm going to work, say I work at Top Cow, there's an expectation from a Top Cow look. I'm going to fit that mold. I'm going to fit the Top Cow. I'm not going to Frankenstein my art. I'm not going to take the eyes from Silvestri and the hair and the lips from Mike Turner, and I'm not going to try and Frankenstein the stuff, but I'm going to say, okay, here's my interpretation of what this is, and here's what I want to do with it. Here's how I can push it forward. If I had that opportunity. Unless if I was interning at Top Cow and they said blatantly, you're going to draw like this guy because you're going to be 4 pages in this book and needs to fit the style, then that's what we got to do. I mean, commercial art is just not, it's a very gray area with all this stuff. You'll have, as an artist, a lot of experiences that are all unique to you. in many ways, they're all right and all wrong at the same time. I try to liken it to, politically speaking, you'll hear a lot of the time that it's a liberal media and the liberals are taking over, and then vice versa, you'll hear that it's a conservative nation and it's all about right-wing politics and more warmongering. And guess what? Both sides are equally. They're actually both right. There's that law about the cat in the box. The cat's both alive and dead at the same time. It's a theoretical physics law that until you observe it, right? In physics, until you observe something, that the act of observing, can influence the result. Well, obviously, I can look at the world and see it one way, and it's true, and you can look at the world and see another way, and it's equally true at the same time, even if it seems to run completely against what I see. In art, these things are all gray. So you as a commercial artist, my advice, again, is to figure out what line you want to draw on. If I liken it to my customer. I look at the people buying this stuff and what they have as an expectation to the end result. So if I'm designing a t-shirt for Walmart, I'm thinking of the Walmart customer. I'll go to Walmart, spend a lot of time studying customers, and not just one. I'll drive all the way around. When if I go traveling across state, I go to Walmarts all over, from Montana to Nevada to Utah to Michigan and back and forth. If it's a comic book, if I was working on like in case with the Big Dog covers, Tom and them, he has a certain clientele and they expect a certain vibe, and that vibe is sort of pre-established at Big Dog before I get there. That doesn't mean I'm gonna draw covers in Niai's coloring style. I'm gonna draw covers in Ebass's art style. I'm not gonna go and redraw their stuff, but I'm going to work with the expectation of that customer. That's if you don't understand what that line is, it's very difficult for me to explain it to you. It's kind of like the Matrix. It's hard to describe it to you. You have to sort of see it for what it is. And I've seen this in art departments, and the limited experience I've had, I've seen artists, do quite right with it. My buddy Ray Smith, was probably a great helper in sort of explaining this to me and leading me down the path of the light side. I like to think, all right. Whereas I have seen other artists just trace over fucking art and call it their own. Just jack. No, this t-shirt's from junk food. This t-shirt's from over here. We're just going to completely retake it and get ownership. And in their mind, they build up this little fanciful world where they're the fucking creators of all that cool stuff. So, again, I say leave me emails, leave me questions and comments and stuff like that about this sort of thing and see where you want to take it. I had an email recently come up from the first sketch rant where, let's see, it's right here. Oh, wait. I'll bring it up. Sorry, guys, I do this unedited. So, Patola, Leonardo, you asked me, I heard your artist rant record, and I wonder how much time a good, quote-unquote, good artist uses in his works. I met some good artists that say just doodle down in 2 hours. Oh, that means they just made that in a couple hours. And they're awesome. I also met someone that said I used 2 months to make that illustration. And it's a complex, perfect masterpiece. You already said about your work that commercial pieces need to be made in 10 hours or something. So perfection is not always an efficient thing. Okay, so you want to know how long an artist should take in your art. Leonardo. So, again, I'm not saying an artist should take 10 hours. I'm saying that in that particular case, that's how long it took me. I've sort of inadvertently found out I would be rounding downwards in the time it took me. I try to put it this way. With my art, I like to get it down. I like to get things drawn in a day and a half. That's the average I always heard growing up. Draw a page in a day. Draw a piece in a day. Coloring, I want to color in 1 day. Because coloring is always twice as fast. So if it took me a day to 2 days to draw I say a really complex cover. Like Game Fan, the Game Fan issue 6 cover, that's 2 days worth of effort. So I would say somewhere between 10, 24 hours worth of total time elapsed. Well, it wasn't 10 hours. So I'd say somewhere between 18 and 24 hours total time to draw the whole thing. All right. Now, going to color, though there's the difference. It can take me 10 hours to color, but it might take me 6 hours to do flats. And I wasn't really coloring doing flats. See, that's my mind rounding downwards where I'm I'm sort of removing the flats from the coloring equation. And it's a very bad thing to do. And if you try and explain this to your editors and publishers, like, well, it's going to take me 6 hours to flat it, they'll go, well, why is it going to take you so long? It doesn't have to be that great. And they'll always try to find some way to get it faster. In commercial art, people always want things faster. Okay? So, you have to make goals for yourself. I'm not going to tell you should take 2 hours or 20 hours to draw something. I'm going to say the best advice I ever got was from Dave Sim, the creator of Cerebus. And he told me, Rob, get good, then get fast, and then get good and fast. He's like, I've been working on good. And he might have been like a wise ass when he was saying that. But there's something to that I'd rather be good than fast. However, if I want to make a living, I have to be fast and efficient. So the question is, did it take you 10 hours or 20 hours? Or did it take you 20 hours and a fourth of that time was you browsing on the internet and getting some coffee and playing some video games or watching some episodes of TV and all that other stuff? Are you really being efficient with your work? And I goof this up just as much as anybody else. When fans of comic books and stuff tell me, well, this artist is always late, this artist is always late, I'm thinking like, well, that shit's just fucking hard to draw. Not the artist is late. Sometimes it's just exhausting. And some pieces go effortlessly and some pieces don't. And some artists are just gifted. Like Frazetta was a gifted artist. He just closed his eyes and would draw something perfectly every time. And if you're born with that level of talent, then, you can get the shit what the Death Dealer was painted like in 5 hours or something. It's ridiculous. I couldn't imagine. All right? So I couldn't paint over the fucking thing in 5 hours. I'm not a gifted artist. I'm a guy who's like karate, right? I've honed these skills and I'm honing and continue to hone. And I hope to be a really great, old master, right? But right now I'm still in Karate Kid stages. I haven't even won a tournament yet. And my advice to you, again, is to seek out good art and not worry at this point about doing it on any kind of timetable. All right? If it takes you, now 2 months for an illustration, I think you said, some artists say 2 months, well, that's never going to work in commercial art. Unless you're a fine artist, right? I don't mean you're fine and hot. I mean you're a really strong painter. And you put all this painting into it, and it took you 2 months to do something, mostly because they were waiting for the paint to dry, probably. That's the case, but dude, in commercial art, you got to be fast. Probably one of the best DVDs I ever seen on this was Dave Dorman has a Gnomon DVD, and let me write that down. Gnomon, link, Dorman. I have to put down the show links. Dave Dorman, fantastic artist. Met him a couple years back, and he paints in oils, and he came up with a lighting rig that allows the paint to be baked in quickly, so he's able to work in oils commercially. But he always talks about speed. Dave Struzan, another fantastic artist, has a great Struzan DVD. Dave Struzan, the poster artist from the 80s and 90s, fantastic artist. And he talks about, it's commercial art. You got to be fast. And that's true. Right now I'm working on trying to retain my, level of skill that I have now with speed. I'm pushing that. And there's only so fast I can go. So for me, I know it's not an easy answer, but I would say, generically speaking, in the realm of comic books, you want to average a page and a half a day. All right? Because you go 2 days on a page. One page and a half, you're doing a page and a half, and then the other half of the day you're laying out your other pages. If you go 2 days, two days for a page, we'll do the math. It's just a simple math. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's 3 pages a week. If that's 3 pages a week, in 1 month I have half an issue. So it's not good, dude. If you go page a day, then you can get 5 pages a week, right? I think Jan Buscema back in the day would say in the How to Draw the Marble Way, he could do 7 pages a day. Well, look at those pages, dude. You know, I don't know, 7 pages a day. I mean, it'd have to be really loose pencils for me. The art has changed, you know. I'm trying. I don't. And then you look at Danger Girl. Lord knows how long that took Campbell to draw. You know, it's probably the reason why he hasn't done another major series since, other than Wildsiders, and that didn't sell too well. So sadly. Anyhow, so that's that. Thank you guys for the emails. Keep them coming. And let me get on to the third and final art theft thing, sketch rants. I want to talk about inspirational versus working in a house style.